This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. The trial has started for a Headingley Corrections officer. Robert Jeffrey Morden is charged in connection with the death of an inmate 2 years ago. The CBC's Stephanie Cram has this report from the Winnipeg courthouse.
Today, a provincial courtroom was packed for the first day of the trial of Robert Morden, the correctional officer charged with criminal negligence causing harm and failure to provide the necessities of life in connection to the 2021 death of 45-year-old Headingley inmate William Amo, who is from Saugeen First Nation. Today, the court saw over 2 hours of video footage captured from inside the jail, shot on a handheld camera by an officer. In it, you could see Amo pacing the common area of his jail unit. Later, he rips a water tank from the wall. The first witness at today's trial was Michel Jolicoeur, a crisis negotiator. In the video footage, you can hear Jolicoeur trying to calm down Amo. You can hear Amo say he was upset by a joke about First Nations people that another officer told him earlier that day. After hours of watching Amo, a tactical unit of about a dozen officers, led by Morden, entered the common area. In the footage, you can see projectiles shot at Amo, and the officers swarm him and hold him down with their shields. After transferring him to a chair to detain him and with a spit mask on his head, you can hear Amo repeatedly say, "I can't breathe." Moments later, he loses consciousness. Amo was taken to a Winnipeg hospital where he was intubated. A week later, he was taken off of life support and died. In the courtroom, Amo's family broke down crying in the final moments of the last video shown. The trial continues next week. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg is one of the few large cities in Canada without a curbside composting program. Now, a long-awaited report recommends rolling out green carts across the city. But as CBC's Cameron McLean explains, it could still be years before the program starts.
Linda Zhu loves to prepare dried apple slices and other produce from her backyard. With 3 apple trees and a garden, she has a lot of food waste, which is why she was glad to participate in a pilot project that tested curbside compost pickup in 5 Winnipeg neighborhoods from 2020 to 2022.
I care a lot about the environment, and I personally just feel good when I see a lot of the waste is going to the bin, and instead of generating those green emissions.
The city estimates organic waste makes up about half of all residential garbage taken to the landfill, where it breaks down and turns into methane, a major contributor to climate change. Zhu hopes the city moves ahead with the plan.
I think the city should do it, and I also talked to some of my neighbors after the pilot program. They really wish it to continue as well because they realize how much the food waste they can divert from the landfill.
The city expects the annual waste from green bins like these to add up to 42,000 tons per year. One of the things the city has to do is build a facility to process all of that material. That's one of the reasons why the report is recommending the city wait to start its program until 2030.
The city's waste diversion fee is currently nearly $70. The report recommends an $8 increase per household starting next year. That would rise to a $96 increase by 2030.
I'm not sure that'll survive.
Water and Waste Chair Brian Mays has concerns about those fees and the long timeline.
I think we can proceed on the general direction of let's go without approving that.
Peas and carrots?
The program wouldn't include people living in apartments, but enterprises like Compost Winnipeg are available for that.
It's a great place to start and a fantastic way to start educating people and putting it in their hands so they can have that daily dedication to making change.
A change that people like Linda Zhu hope comes sooner than later. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba NDP is promising to hire more paramedics to improve health care in our province. NDP leader Wab Kinew says if elected October 3rd, his government would hire 200 more paramedics across the province. He says too often people in rural Manitoba are left waiting a long time for first responders.
Our plan is simple. We're going to hire more paramedics so that when you dial 911, you're going to get a response more quickly.
Kinew says the paramedics would be hired by the end of his first term. Kinew also says by reopening 3 emergency rooms, paramedics won't have to wait as long for their patients to be admitted. The Manitoba Liberal Party wants to change the way people are elected in this province. Leader Dougald Lamont proposes changing the current system, first past the post, to one with ranked ballots. Right now, the person who gets the most votes becomes the MLA. In a ranked system, voters would list their first, second, third, and fourth choices. Lamont says that would give people the chance to vote for who they really want rather than vote strategically.
With ranked ballots, every winning MLA candidate would have to receive a clear majority of 50% plus one of support from voters, again, requiring candidates to campaign to appeal to their opponents' supporters as well.
In the 2019 election, the Manitoba Liberal Party won 3 seats, but they had just under 15% of the popular vote. Lamont admits a change like the one he's proposing would help his party's fortunes, but he also says it would better reflect Manitobans. Party leaders go head-to-head right here on CBC at 6 p.m. on September 21st. We're teaming up with other broadcasters, CTV and Global, to bring you an hour-long, commercial-free provincial leaders debate. It will be moderated by Mary Agnes Welch from Probe Research, with questions by a panel of journalists. We'll also bring you live analysis immediately after the debate at 7 p.m. Watch that on our website or our CBC Manitoba YouTube channel. This coming Tuesday will be a busy one for many Manitoba families as public schools start classes. It will also be a very big day for one of Winnipeg's most celebrated authors. CBC's Bartley Kivas brings us the story.
I'm glad it worked out.
Katherena Vermette had to sign a few books today, hundreds and hundreds of them. It's a good problem for an author to have. The Métis Winnipeg writer who grew up in the North End is most famous for a series of novels that began with The Break. The series kicks off with a violent act set in this Manitoba hydro corridor. But violence is just one facet of Vermette's fiction.
This book, I was articulating it as I want to write about trauma without being traumatic.
This book is The Circle, which comes out on Tuesday. It's the third and final chapter in a series that began with The Break in 2016 and continued with The Strangers in 2021. All 3 books chronicle the resilience of several generations of Winnipeg families. The stories are told first person by a handful of those characters.
My concern is that one character and their view of the world, and through that one character you know about their likes and their dislikes and their history and their everything and their impression of the world, and that it's a very singular way into a world.
The writing is deceptively simple, even if the subject matter is complex. Vermette manages to make intergenerational trauma understandable.
To make that feel simple when it's not, it's just a mark of skill, really.
David Robertson is a friend of Vermette and a celebrated Winnipeg author in his own right.
She took this complex family, these complex cast of characters in a really complex situation, and she made it something that anybody can read and enter into that world.
Even though the prose is easy to read, Vermette says she knows not everyone finds it easy.
Some people just don't want to read the heavy stuff, and they're like, oh, you're too heavy for me, lighten up, be a joke. That comes from all over. But also there's other people who feel seen. That's always my most precious compliment.
Although The Circle is billed as the conclusion to the Stranger trilogy, Vermette won't rule out revisiting some of the characters. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Our weather specialist Riley Laychuk joins us on this Friday as we head into what could be a very, very hot long weekend.
Very, very hot long weekend for many locations in Manitoba and in northwestern Ontario, where we have a heat warning, and we'll get right to it because we do have some severe weather also moving through northwestern Ontario. So you can see this area in the deeper red. This is a heat warning for Kenora down through Dryden, Fort Francis, over to International Falls. But this is what I'm watching right here. This area of red, a tornado warning for the area east of Sioux Lookout, heading in an easterly direction here. And this is the storm here that Environment Canada has determined could be giving off some rotation into northwestern Ontario. So this is to the northeast of Dryden, east of Sioux Lookout, moving toward the east here. And severe thunderstorm watches already in effect ahead of that. So some severe weather moving through northwestern Ontario into parts of cottage country as we get into the long weekend here. For the rest of us, a very calm and a very sunny Friday here across our province, at least anyway. Just a little bit of cloud cover moving through parts of northern Manitoba, and really that's what our setup is looking like as we get into the weekend. High pressure dominating, and that really will help to keep our skies really sunny and really hot as we get into the weekend. So right now 27 degrees in Winnipeg. We got to 28 earlier in the afternoon. Winds dying off a little bit. We did see winds out of the west at 20 gusting to 40 this afternoon. Pressure rising at the moment. So as we get into the weekend here, you can see Futurecast pushing some of this instability off into northern Ontario, and we start Saturday with a sunny sky here in the south, and really that is the story of the weekend. Bright sunshine, southerly flow around that high pressure system, allowing some of that really hot air from the southern states to really move its way up into Manitoba as we get into Saturday and into Sunday. So we're going to see temperatures really across the province getting into, in some cases, the mid-30s. We'll talk numbers in just a second here, but you can see Monday, a little bit of instability starting to move into northern Manitoba. Chance we could see some of that moving to the south as we get into the later part of the day on Monday and into Tuesday. So looking at our upper level atmosphere, you can see here that hot air allowing its way to come to the north as we get into the day on Saturday. That is hanging around as we get into Sunday and early Monday. Before that, you can see the jet stream really sinking down here, allowing some of that more seasonal air to move in as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, looking a lot more seasonal here in southern Manitoba and really province-wide. The other thing this weekend, I think, worth mentioning will be the haze and the smoke, especially as we get into Saturday more. So you can see some of these brighter colors through central Manitoba. As our winds shift around to the west, that will start to move its way out, and much clearer and sunnier skies coming as we get into the day on Sunday. So tonight in Winnipeg, down to 17 degrees, a clear sky tonight. Tomorrow morning, waking up to sunshine, 18 degrees, and up to 34, hot and sunny in the afternoon tomorrow. Looking at our long weekend forecast for cottage country areas here, into the 30s for the white shell. Chance of those showers of the afternoon Monday. Pretty much the same through northwestern Ontario as well. Temperatures at or above 30 degrees as we get into the weekend. A little bit warmer through the Gimli region as well. Temperatures at 31 tomorrow. Cooling off a bit as we get into Saturday or into Sunday and Monday. Through western Manitoba, 30s again, 32, 33 degrees, even a 35 in the forecast for the Brandon area tomorrow. And then there's that greater chance of showers, I think, the further north you go through Monday. So Monday a bit cooler through the Dauphin region into the Riding Mountain region, and expect some showers through the later part of the day. And into the northern part of the province, temperature still very nice as well. And Janet, a chance of showers, and 19 degrees in Thompson on Monday.
So don't forget the sunscreen.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the water for staying hydrated.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks so much, Riley. We'll check in with you a little later. Winnipeg's Brad Katona is the only person in history to win The Ultimate Fighter twice. The Ultimate Fighter is a popular mixed martial arts reality show where contestants win a six-figure contract with the world's biggest MMA promoter, the UFC. CBC's Jim Agapito recently visited Katona to find out what it was like to set a new record.
Well, Lisa has this thing she always says to Brad before he competes. So
every time he's competed since he was young, I always give him a hug and tell him to come back pretty.
My name is Brad Katona. I'm now a UFC fighter, the first two-time winner of The Ultimate Fighter. In the moment, you're just reacting and you're going, and I wasn't aware that it was, call it, that exciting of a fight until afterwards. I was like, oh man, people really like this. That's nice. And then I watched it the next morning and I was like, you know what? That was an entertaining fight. I'll tip my hat to that.
Oh man, I was nervous, definitely nervous. I needed a couple of beers before even the fight started, but I don't know, deep down I had a feeling that, you know, with his preparation and everything else, that it was going to go his way.
So I would say the first time I did The Ultimate Fighter, I was like, man, that was really cool, but I never want to do it again. But this time was certainly more difficult. The entire time it's on your mind, I needed to win every single fight. And not only win, but make it to that fight. Let's say I got sick and I couldn't compete, or I got injured. That was probably going to be my last shot at fighting in the UFC.
As a parent, you know, just the stress is on you knowing that he's going to go in a cage with another person and basically fight for his life. You know, it's it's difficult.
Maybe this is a little cliche, but I remind myself that I really have nothing to lose. Yeah, maybe it was my dream on the line, but really the stuff that matters. Like, I know my parents are going to love me no matter what. Like, they're going to be there. If I fail, they don't really care. They care because I care about it. But really, at the end of the day, it's not like they're going to be like, okay, we're done with you, you know? Like, well, it was pretty much, hey parents. I know we spent the past 4 or 5 years getting a degree in mechanical engineering, and I have an engineering job, but I think I'm going to quit that job, move to Ireland, become a full-time fighter. So that, imagine, like, okay, that can go one of two ways with your parents. They can go, absolutely not, you got to focus on your career, or it can go, hey, this is your dream, go out and try to make the most of it.
Well, the most important thing was education first. You know, get your education so you have something to fall back on. But you always have to chase that dream because you don't want to live in the what ifs later on. You know, I should have done this, you know.
I'm just happy Brad was able to try and follow his dream. I know how hard the road was for him the last little while since COVID hit. And as parents, we're just happy to support him, win or lose. He's still Brad. He's never Superman in our house. He's only Brad.
Spoken like a mum. He's only Brad. Still ahead, dozens of people with the Canada Revenue Agency have been let go for improperly taking the CERB pandemic benefit while they were working for the government. That story after the break, when CBC Winnipeg News continues. The Canada Revenue Agency has fired more than 100 employees for taking CERB payments. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit offered $500 a week to workers who'd lost their jobs in the first months of the pandemic. The agency says it has zero tolerance for inappropriate claims. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
The very government agency responsible for managing pandemic benefits for Canadians has now had to fire 120 of its own employees for taking CERB money they didn't qualify for. The Canada Revenue Agency is still investigating hundreds more. The union says the cases are across the country.
Some cases are black and white. People knew about the system, knew the criteria, and they still applied. And it's very hard to defend them. In other cases, some people have, I guess, a better case, or there was a misunderstanding or a lack of comprehension of the program, even if they work at the CRA. In some instances, some employees had a second and a third job.
The employees who have been caught will have to pay back the money, and CRA isn't ruling out involving the police if there was criminal wrongdoing. In a statement, the country's Minister of Revenue writes, "The confidence and trust that Canadians put in the Canada Revenue Agency is a cornerstone of Canada's tax system. The disciplinary measures imposed show that for us, it is zero tolerance. These cases must not call into question the integrity and honesty of the more than 60,000 CRA employees who work in an exemplary fashion to serve their fellow citizens." The CRA says some of its staff actually did qualify for CERB because they were on student contracts or temporary employees. Its investigation found about 30 people that fit that situation who will not be fired. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Heritage champions are pushing back on reports that 24 Sussex will not house any more prime ministers. CBC News reported earlier this week that the federal government is exploring other sites to build a brand new official residence in Ottawa. It would be modern and secure. But as Catherine Tunney tells us, that's angered some who'd rather save the old mansion.
For years, prime ministers have called this place home. It's also been called a rodent-infested death trap and a security risk. But for this heritage proponent, a building still worth saving.
If you have a pest problem in your house, your first reaction is to call a pest control company. It's not to call the demolition company.
He's speaking out following news that 24 Sussex might never house a prime minister again. Sources say the government is looking at an entirely new site to bolster security. Donné's group believes 24 Sussex can be saved for less than what it would take to build a new home, and less than the $36 million of public funds that the National Capital Commission estimates it would take to renovate 24. But saving a piece of history, for Donné, priceless.
How many historic events have to occur in a place before it's recognized as historic? Okay. The fact is, everybody from monarchs to presidents to constitutional discussions have occurred in this living room.
He's not alone. An architecture firm in Ottawa wants to preserve the home too. It's published an unsolicited proposal to save the main home, while adding a modern wing to host official functions, with hopes the new Minister of Procurement will at least give it a look.
This is not a new debate. What to do with 24 Sussex is a perpetual question, one that politicians are more than willing to kick down the road.
This will be, of my list of priorities, this will probably be the last. We don't need a new home for the Prime Minister. We need a new home for working class Canadians.
For others, enough is enough.
I think it's embarrassing that a G7 country can't provide a safe, secure residence for the head of government.
Ottawa has said it could make a decision about 24 Sussex by the fall, a chance to finally learn the fate of this building. Maybe. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Ottawa.
The latest numbers from Statistics Canada shows our economy contracted slightly during the second quarter of the year. The GDP decreased at a rate of 0.2% year over year. Housing investment saw another drop in the second quarter, a fifth straight decline. The decreased spending on housing came as Canadians faced steeper borrowing costs because of higher interest rates. By the way, the Bank of Canada is expected to reveal Wednesday whether it will hike interest rates again. Tens of millions of people in Hong Kong and parts of mainland China have sought shelter as Typhoon Seola approaches. Hong Kong has issued its highest storm alert. Forecasters say winds have reached almost 200 kilometers an hour. Authorities say it could be one of the strongest storms to hit the region in decades. They're warning of serious flooding due to heavy rain, with water levels reaching as high as 1.5 meters in some areas. Hundreds of flights have been canceled. Luckily, no stormy weather in our forecast. Riley Lachuk is back to show us what next week will look like after the break.
Wanted to give you an update on the severe weather moving through northwestern Ontario, north and east of the Dryden area here. This area around Armstrong, Ontario, just under a tornado warning as of a few seconds ago. So some severe weather moving through ahead of a hot weekend in southern Manitoba. 34 tomorrow, 32 on Sunday. Then we start to see things moderating a bit. Some showers on the way for Tuesday, a high of 21 degrees, and then more sunshine and more seasonal temperatures by the end of next week. Well, police in Nebraska made an unusual traffic stop this week.
Yes, they did. Here is your daily lift. No bull. Yeah, that's a bull named Howdy Doody, or a 2C bull with the big horns. The police got a tip earlier about the man driving through the town of Norfolk with a cow in the passenger seat. They thought they'd see a little calf, but no, a 900-kilogram steer. This car had been modified to make space for Howdy Doody to ride shotgun. I mean, are you going to tell him he can't go with you?
Yeah.
I don't think I would. Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us. We'll see you Tuesday when we're back with a full hour of news. See you then.